Welcome to devlog number 2 of my Halloween showcase game. So I'm still working on 3D models. You'll see, well, 3D models, and then I'm working on a fighter for the human faction of my game. But in these first couple of time lapses, you're going to see me making weapons. In the previous time lapse, if you were paying super close attention and can follow 20x speed, you would see that the weapons I just kind of built into the 3D model of my flying saucer. Well, I separated them out, and I think I do that in this video actually. I'm separating them out into their own models. Originally, my plan was to have, just a loadout built into the ships, and I wasn't really planning on having the player be able to customize the weapons. But I thought, why not separate them out and then maybe I'll add custom weapons or loadouts to each of the different ships. We'll see if I have time for it, but I figured I might as well plan for it just in case. Worst comes to worst, I'll just, create the weapon in Unreal and then, add it without giving the player the ability to customize it. But right now, I'm making a Gatling gun, which I think is, in my opinion, one of the most fun things to 3D model. You get to use a lot of the Control R to repeat previous things. You saw a second there, I had him, all the barrels were going around. Um, but in retrospect, I probably should have left the barrels as separate objects, and they are linked duplicates, but uh, I eventually separate them out and then make them, or separate them out. They are separated out, and then I eventually make them into join in the mesh with the minigun. And that's a mistake I also make with the little bullet chain thing. And here, this is where I'm doing like this is where I'm learning. I have no idea how to use like array modifiers and Bezier curve modifiers, not properly anyway. So you'll see me messing around a lot here and being like, "What the fuck? Why is this like blowing up?" And I'm learning that the orientation of the curve versus the mesh that you're populating along it matters. And I go through a couple mess ups here, but I eventually figure it out. The other thing is I'm making that little bullet chain be, they're all their own little individual mesh. They're just cubes, but uh, they're all their own thing. So later I kind of make like a drum mag, and then kind of just have like a couple bullets from it form a chain to go in, just to save on polygons and keep with the low poly aesthetic I'm going for. Not that I'm particularly concerned about performance. This is going to be on PC. I'm not planning to compile it into mobile or anything. So it's just something that I want to get in the habit of doing, of like optimizing things where I can. Um, but yeah, this the entire point of this project is just to learn different things. Like, just I tried like 4 or 5 different times with the damn array and curve um, modifiers. Eventually, I kind of land on something that I like, and then I end up changing it later still. But like I said, the Gatling gun is kind of a lot of fun to make. It's just a lot of simple shapes, but it looks really cool when it's all put together. Um, so yeah, I wanted to have something like that that would be like a more human weapon, and then like the more lasery type futuristic stuff will be the alien sci-fi flying saucer type weapons. But if I end up putting them on, oh yeah, here's where I'm making the drum. Yeah, so if I end up making the loadout customizable and you're able to pick your weapons, then I guess it won't really matter. But I suppose it makes sense in like a, you know, galactic war or whatever where aliens exist, it's fair to assume that we would reverse engineer their equipment. This game isn't really going to be heavy on lore anyway. And here's another thing, like, pay attention to what you're doing because like, I could have easily set this up to just be a mirror, and I did it first, but then I separated it out, and then I changed the mesh, and then I was like, oh, well, I need to go update this now, but I should have just deleted it and used another mirror modifier. Oh yeah, and so now the next weapon I'm working on is like a homing missile. I end up using like way more polygons than intended. Uh, but I feel like if it's going to be a homing missile, it probably needs like multiple boosters on it so that I control direction slightly. Um, but I go through a million different iterations here of like different things that look like warheads and rocket boosters, and I was like, huh, maybe should I do like a two-stage rocket or something? Like it fires straight at first and then it homes off. I don't know, but I'm probably getting a little too complicated with it. So I was like, all right, well, I'll scrap all that and I'll just work on the little, I don't even know what these things are called in rocket science, the little funnels that concentrate the exhaust that propels it forward. I don't know what those are called. But whatever, I made like 5 of them and they all had like 16 subdivisions, I think. And now I'm just like, do I want the missile to be bigger, fatter, pointier? Honestly, I can't even remember what I landed on. Oh yeah, I went with like a big fat warhead. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And then the last thing, oh my god, this is gonna be painful for me to watch back. So I'm trying to build like a human ship. I wanted it to look like it had, wings so it could go into atmosphere, but then also go up into space. And I wanted it to be, recognizable as current technology, but slightly futuristic. So I play around with all these like different shapes, and I just made things like way too complicated. This is where I need to work on my 3D modeling workflow. I don't think I spend enough time in the blockout phase. And so I end up spending a ton of time just kind of like changing things and, tweaking little tiny things and being like, oh, does this look good? Oh, yeah, that looks fine, but that means that this other stuff doesn't look right. And the funny thing is like it's already at the shape that I was more or less happy with here. But then I spend like another hour, yeah, much long as, yeah, I spent 2.5 hours working on this particular 3D model, and almost all of that was just going back and messing around with the shape and being like, I'm not happy with this. I'm going to redo it. And in the end, I'm not even sure I like how it turned out. I might just redo it anyway. So don't ignore your blockout phase, people. It'll save you some time if you know what shape you actually want to have first, and then you won't spend so much time like tweaking details that don't even end up mattering because you don't like the shape of the whole thing. This part, I kind of thought it looked cool how how I was putting it on like separately. But then I eventually like go in and try to reduce the polygon count, and then I end up making it very low poly anyway, even though I think it looks cooler the way it is that I'm seeing now. That's probably why I'm gonna restart it. I don't know. I suppose I'll have to take a look after I finish making this video and see if I'm happy with the way that it turned out. I am on a deadline here. I have like 7.5 weeks or something. It's the thing that I signed up for is on like October 20th. So I had a little bit more time than I originally thought I would, but not much. I still have like 7.5 weeks, something like that. So I can't spend, multiple days working on like a single fighter jet. Like right here, I should have just said, up, it's done, ship it. Maybe I could have like reduced the poly count of the rear fin, but I like the way that the body looks, and the regular wings, I like the way those look. Yeah, the cockpit was good, man. You should have left it alone. Oh, what was I thinking? Well, I guess it doesn't look terrible here, but I just keep changing it. Like, oh boy. Yeah, I'm not even halfway done. I'm not even sure why I got so obsessed with this particular model. I think it's probably because, with a flying saucer, there's like general shapes that you need to hit, but it's not like it's not something that you have like a lot of real world. I mean, it's not something that actually exists. So all you see is sci-fi renderings in movies and stuff. So you have a lot of like liberties that you can take with the what a flying saucer looks like. Then when you're trying to make something that looks human, you sort of get caught in this like detail spiral. And then I'm always obsessed with optimization. I'm like applying the mirror modifier. I'm like, oh, I can optimize if I, apply the mirror and then cut things down. but then like I am not finished editing the complete shape yet. So then I just keep going back to it and then having to change one side, and then I have to reapply the mirror again. Honestly, I can't even remember how it looks, how I left it off. I'll have to look after this video. Because I I do still need to make frigates, and I still need to make capital ships too. The other thing is this might end up being a pain to texture. It may not. I don't know. It might be easier since I did reduce the poly count so much. I suppose it does look a little better as I tweak it more and more. A lot cleaner lines, but I really do need to leave well enough alone after a certain point. It looks more like a bird than a plane right now. I mean, that's not the worst thing in the world. Birds fly too. I think that's why later I moved the wings up a little bit more. I think that helps it look more plane-like, I suppose. But yeah, I have the poly count down to like, well, with the mirror applied, it's like 400 and some tries you can see down in the corner. I'm like, yeah, it's optimized enough. I think this is where I need to be like, okay, well, I'm not going to be a slave to my low poly art style. I can maybe go a little higher in some things if it gets me through this more. Kind of why I like making these videos. I get to watch what I was doing and then critique it. And then I can maybe look out for those mistakes and make sure that I'm not getting too bogged down in detail when I'm doing this. You know what? Moving the wings forward made it look even more like a bird. Honestly, I'm probably going to end up redoing this thing. Hopefully it'll take me about a quarter of the time. But yeah, in the meantime, I've been doing some research on how I'm going to do the factions for the overworld map. There's something called uh, agent-based simulation or something like that. I think that's what it was called. And it's basically just a fancy way of being like, oh, it's AI and they interact with each other. Uh, but it sounds kind of familiar to like what maybe RTS games do with their AI. Because some AIs will be like turtles and others will be like attackers and things like that. At least in, I think it was Command and Conquer 3 had different types of AI. Um, but yeah, so that's the whole damn thing right there. Um, So yeah, I think I've rambled enough. I don't want to go beat this dead horse when I should be working. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.